the whole Twitter argument about hitting in the OHL. So basically, if you don't know about this, the Ontario government, in all of its wisdom, has put a minister in charge who I would personally say is a questionable choice, and is a extremely intelligent person. There's no question about that. But I do question, to me, a spotty record. And basically, the question is, can the kids in the OHL, can they hit because of COVID? Are they allowed to hit? And Lisa McLeod, she's the MPP. She has said, absolutely, we are not negotiating this, because it was reported by Darren Dreger that the two sides are talking. And she said, this is not a negotiation point. She retweeted him and said that. Bob McKenzie came back at her and said, well, okay, well, and in typical Bob fashion, just like Elliot Friedman, very neutral. There are a lot of questions here. What's the difference between a hit and a 20-second puck battle, which happens all the time, which potentially would be more dangerous in this idea? So I don't know what the right answer is, but I know that doing nothing is not the right answer. Personally, I think you have to play play the cards that you're dealt. So when we are dealt a pandemic, instead of sitting back and saying, we're not going to do this, we need to look at what are the solutions to do this. We have to continue to live. We have to continue to, these guys, say what you want. Oh, just don't have them play. These kids have been working their whole lives. This could affect, there's millions of dollars at stake for some of these kids. And frankly, for some of the coaches and for some of the teams, their survival depends
scholarships.
Imagine just saying.
Oh wait, no, not major junior. Sorry, but junior A anyway.
But imagine you're looking at this as a league owner. Your franchise just might not exist. You may never open the door again. And for a lot of these communities, which the OHL is represented in, they're a major deal. So, to say, well, why don't they just not play, I think fundamentally disrespects the fact that there are hundreds and hundreds and thousands of jobs at stake here that are beyond just the players. The player safety has to be paramount. I believe that it already is. The question is the body checking argument really the argument here? Or are we needing to take a step back and go, what are we doing to protect the players outside of the rink so that when they do hit on the ice, the chances of COVID being spread or even being brought onto the ice are basically as close to nil as we can get them. And I think that's the issue that we're facing is that, there's so many people that are willing to wait and go, well, it's just junior hockey. Who the hell cares? Well, I'm sorry, but if you did anything for 12 years from the time you were 4 years old, and you had a dream and you actually had the talent to make it happen, and your parents are driving you to practice or whatever, even if you don't end up in the NHL, even if you don't play hockey professionally in the Swedish league or in the AHL or in the KHL or whatever, it could lead to other things for you. And there's plenty of good things that come out of playing in the OHL for these kids. I want you to imagine you take the one focus of these kids' lives, the thing that they love the most in the whole world, away from them for a year and let them sit on their ass as teenagers, and imagine what happens then. To me, sports give people focus. They give people a reason to get up in the morning. It gave me, when I was a kid, a reason to look forward to the weekend. I loved playing hockey, and that was the thing I looked forward to most about Saturdays. If I didn't have hockey in my teen years, I'd have been lost. I'd have been drinking a lot, frankly. And I'm not saying that's going to happen to all of these kids, but I think it's extremely, I was drinking anyway, but it's extremely destructive to take away something like that from a young person. So the question on the adult side is, how do we continue to do this with the cards that we are dealt, which is a global pandemic? And that is the challenge. You want to be an MP or an MPP or whatever the hell they are. You want to be a league executive. You want to be a coach. You want to be in hockey at all. You want to be in government at all. I'm sorry this isn't a normal year, and I'm sorry these aren't normal circumstances, but that is what you are paid for. You are paid to figure this out. And when an MPP comes out and says, we're not negotiating this, you've completely shut down the conversation. And we know full well that they are negotiating it. We know that they are talking. We know that they are throwing proposals back and forth. So to say that is not only wrong and just destructive, it's disingenuous. Of course you're talking.
Well,
That's how you come to a solution. It's not Lisa McLeod says in the OHL and all of hockey follows. She knows that as well as they do. So figure it out, protect the kids, and give them their reason to continue. This is a game that is already suffering in this country, and we call it part of our national fabric. We have to protect this game. We have to make it better. I understand the hockey culture things. We talked about that with Hunter Ryan earlier in the show.
That's part of protecting it.
This is part of protecting it.
And the Memorial Cup specifically means a lot to a lot of people.
Yes.
And I think the highest rating for the Memorial Cup was 2005 when Sidney Crosby was in it. And they nearly had a million people for just that game. It was like 800,000 or something like that. So a lot of people are invested, the communities, the people who just care about hockey. It's not just something to throw away and make blanket statements about.
Right. And in politics, it so often is polarizing. Steve, let me ask you a question.
Sure.
You saw the Oshawa Generals win in 2015.
Yes, I did.
Do you think that the people of Oshawa cared? Do you think it mattered to them?
Oh, yeah.
Do you think that the people of Erie, do you think Connor McDavid cared about losing?
He did. I saw him when he came off the ice.
Right. So
it was his last game in junior.
Would you say that it's an important part of the culture in Oshawa, the Generals?
An enormous part.
So how does it serve that community and any of these communities to discontinue that or to stifle any sort of discussion about player safety?
It doesn't. And I think it is a ridiculous distraction of a conversation, the no body checking, and it's too easy and I think disingenuous to be like, well, I'm consulting health officials, which of course you should. Of course.
That's the bare minimum.
Like there should be.
What are you going to not?
There should be folks within hockey though who are consulted about this decision too, because they would tell you that's not going to bloody do anything. Taking out body checking, but body checking is you collide and generally it's over. Brian Campbell leveling RJ Umberger. They met for a very short amount of time before RJ Umberger laid down and Brian Campbell went on his merry way. These working in the corner and rubbing up next to each other and net front battles and like, what are we even doing? This is a waste of time. It's a silly conversation. Lisa McLeod tweeted that out with 97 days before the proposed beginning to the OHL season. Do you know what Ontario's COVID numbers were 97 days ago? I think it was somewhere around 100. We've just passed 1,000. So it's gone per day. It's gone really poorly in one direction. Maybe it'll go the complete reverse by 97 days by now. But the point of the fact of the matter is it is a complete distraction. And Doug Ford knows that. That's why he had to tweet, and Jeff Merrick put it great, where he goes, this is basically the equivalent of a lawyer going, Your Honor, what my client was trying to say. Lisa McLeod, for context for non-Ontarians, is a giant pain in Doug Ford's ass and has been for several years. She was previously the Minister of Children's Services. I can't remember the exact title or something like that. She wanted to change the way, families of kids with autism get funding. They hated it. They didn't like her track record with communication. They didn't feel listened to. So she was shuffled.
Wow, that's surprising.
Right. Oh, I know. It connects to this. So she was shuffled out, and then early reports were whoever the new minister is, I forget the person's name. They were like, hey, this person's actually at least listening to our concerns. Lisa McLeod, by the way, was previously mentioned on this podcast, not last episode when I was saying snide remarks about her. She was previously mentioned in a story that we covered where she allegedly stumbled up to Eugene Melnyk at a concert and called him a fucking loser. Yes, it was that same person. So anyway, now she was shuffled to the Minister of Sports because she didn't do a very good job at her previous post. And now there's another controversy here that didn't need to be a controversy. And Doug Ford is once again having to come out and save her ass.
And you're saying to yourself, why is she a minister of anything? Lisa McLeod is an extremely popular MPP within her riding and important to the Conservative base in Ontario. So, as much as, in politics, you got to work with people you don't like, even within your own party. And I would assume maybe they like each other, but I would assume that the way Doug Ford has played this in Ontario, and for anybody outside of Ontario, he's the equivalent of like what Andrew Cuomo is in New York. In a first minister's position, he has worked with all levels of government. He hasn't got, he's disagreed with people, but he's working with John Tory in Toronto. He's working with all the mayors in Peel, in Mississauga. He's worked with Justin Trudeau, who, they were sort of very diametrically opposed and worked in partnership in tandem with. He's very much played, let's all work together through this.
He's gone very out of his way to praise Justin Trudeau, which has been shocking, jarring to see.
Yeah. Right? Would never have happened before this.
No.
Even if he privately would have praised him. He's been very much the guy that, whether you agree with his politics or not, has tried to work with all levels of government, and I'll give him that. The issue with people like Lisa MacLeod and anybody in any sort of negotiation is when you say no, when you just flat out say no before the negotiations has even started. If you disagree with the fact that a negotiation needs to take place, then not very much can be done. And the reality is, even our conversations about topics on this show are a negotiation. We are trading facts, and we are trying to come to some sort of conclusion or opinion. And that's what everything is. When you go home and you try to figure out what's for dinner, you are trading information back and forth with your roommate or your wife or your husband or whoever you're with, or your kids, and they're often negotiating for macaroni and cheese, and you're saying, no, not tonight. We've had that the last 5 nights. You can't win this one.
This is really specific.
But you know what I'm saying? When you shut this down, it's really destructive. And I don't understand why somebody in her position needs to be like that.
Well, I was tweeting about this. Like, it's just another example of women's hockey players being ignored. I joked about this with Ailish Forfar, who I co-host NHL Chat Room with. And I was just like, well, it's so good that when you were playing, women's hockey in university and in the CWHL, that you were never in close contact with an opponent.
Right. They don't allow body checking in women's hockey.
Yeah. And what's great is they never get anywhere near each other,
Yeah, never seen a puck battle on that, right?
No, never, right. Not once. It is preposterous, and it is complete posturing to be like, well, this isn't a negotiation and it's final, and this is for the health of it doesn't help anybody.